Hey y'all, it's Harvard lawyer Lee. If you are not yet following the Murdaugh murders and Mayhem, you are missing out. It's already one of the most talked about cases in America, and come January, it will be the #1 most talked about case. Alex Murdaugh is accused of murder, and that trial starts in late January. But the murder trial is just one of many cases flowing out of this Southern Gothic drama. The first criminal case to go to trial is happening right now. The CEO of Palmetto State Bank, Russell Laffitte, is on trial in South Carolina federal court for defrauding his own bank and several children. But even though Russell Laffitte is the man on trial, the case is all about Alex Murdaugh. Here's the scoop on the drama. Let's start with Russell Laffitte since he's the one on trial. Laffitte was the CEO of Palmetto State Bank, a bank built by Lafitte's family. To say Russell Laffitte was well respected would be an understatement. In fact, he was named Banker of the Year in 2019. But the trial of Laffitte is also the trial of Alex Murdaugh, even though he's not actually even a defendant, and the judges said he won't be allowed to testify. Hang with me to understand why. Murdaugh also was well respected. Murdaugh was an attorney, although he's now been disbarred, and he hails from a long line of powerful prosecutors who ruled their area of South Carolina for 3 generations. Murdaugh himself was a part-time prosecutor and practicing trial lawyer, and he must have been really good because he got some amazing settlements for his clients. Alex Murdaugh is embroiled in his own legal drama in state court, charged with financial crimes and also, most dramatically, with murdering his own wife and son. Maggie and Paul Murdaugh were shot on June 7, 2021. Although the murders are obviously the most serious and sensational crime, so far as I know, nobody thinks Russell Laffitte had anything to do with that. But U.S. attorneys are saying that Russell Laffitte participated in the financial crimes by Alex Murdaugh. U.S. attorneys have filed charges against Russell Laffitte, but are still holding off on charges against Alex Murdaugh. I'm going to take you through the basic facts and then what exactly Russell is on trial for doing. What Laffitte is on trial for is plundering the accounts of Alex Murdaugh's clients. Let's talk about how Laffitte had access to these accounts and why this is a very big deal. When a personal injury lawyer like Alex Murdaugh wins a case, the defendant pays the lawyer directly for the case. The lawyer takes a percentage and then pays the rest to the client. When the client's an adult of sound legal mind, that's pretty straightforward. But what if the client is under age 18? Or maybe had a head injury and is not deemed legally competent to make decisions under the law? The lawyer can't just hand the money to the client. Most states have statutes that say the lawyer needs to get the court to approve where the money is going to go. It's common for the lawyer to ask the court to appoint a bank or a trusted individual to oversee the money. Appointing a bank or a bank official to oversee the money is super safe. The lawyer's protected because, after all, it's a bank, and there was court approval. The court's protected because what safer entity is there than a bank? So Alex Murdaugh got Russell Laffitte to agree to be the court-appointed conservator, and he got the court to approve the deal. He then handed his client's money over to Russell Laffitte to manage. Of course, you should know a conservator is paid for his work. In this case, the indictment said that Russell Laffitte was paid $391,781.07 for being the conservator for 6 different people or estates. Russell had a very serious responsibility to the people for whom he was holding the funds. He had to guard the funds and only invest them reasonably and responsibly. If he did anything improper, he had to answer to the court. Hannah Plyler was one of Alex's clients, and Alec got a large settlement for her because her mother and brother were killed in a car wreck. Hannah was under age 18 at the time, so Russell Laffitte was appointed as a conservator to watch over Hannah Plyler's money. Russell paid himself $113,314 out of her money to manage her financial affairs. But according to the indictment, Russell used Hannah Plyler's money to make loans. And not good loans, really bad loans that you would have to figure would not normally be made by a self-respecting bank. First, and probably most obviously scandalous, the indictment says that Russell made loans to himself out of Hannah Plyler's money, 8 loans totaling $355,000. The indictment says that Russell did not get probate court approval to make the loans, and he never mentioned them to Hannah Plyler. I gather Russell did not put up collateral for these loans either. But the problem with treating Hannah Plyler's account as a piggy bank was that she eventually reached age 18, as kids tend to do. At that age, she was deemed capable by the law of taking over managing her own money. Russell Laffitte was no longer needed as the conservator. She could manage her own financial affairs. Russell had to pay the loans back pronto before Hannah took over and realized there was nothing in her account. So, according to the indictment, he got a $245,000 private loan from a third party. The indictment claims Russell Laffitte is still paying off that private loan, which would mean he did not have Hannah's funds just sitting in an account somewhere. The funds had been spent. But as much as Russell Laffitte paid himself, he loaned Alex Murdaugh far, far more. In the indictment is called bank customer. It's not like it was really tough to decipher that bank customer meant Alex Murdaugh, but that's been made completely clear by the first days of testimony in Russell Laffitte's trial. The indictment says that Russell Laffitte made loans to Alex Murdaugh from Hannah Plyler's money, and in fact, made a whopping $963,500 in loans. The first loan went straight into Alex Murdaugh's personal checking account because it was overdrawn. After that, Russell continued to make loans from Hannah Plyler to Murdaugh when Murdaugh overdrew his personal checking account. Again, Russell Laffitte did not get probate court approval or mention the loans to Hannah Plyler. When it came time to pay Hannah Plyler back, the indictment says that Alex Murdaugh used funds from other clients. Even so, Murdaugh was still $500,000 short. Russell solved the problem by extending Murdaugh a $500,000 line of credit, supposedly for farming. In another situation, the indictment says that Murdaugh's law firm sent Russell Laffitte a check for $1,325,000 to fund a structured settlement. But Murdaugh asked Lafitte to write an email requesting that the disbursement check be divided into smaller checks to specific entities. $482,124.35 went to repay Hannah Plyler's account before she took over managing it. Money went to Murdaugh's father, his wife, a third-party individual to repay a private loan, etc. But unless I am misreading the indictment, the government says that not one penny of the money went to buy a structured settlement for the client. As Murdaugh's world began crashing down, Russell Laffitte apparently became concerned that someone would discover that no structured settlement had been bought for the client. The indictment says that Russell Laffitte wrote a check for $680,000, half the amount that was supposed to go to buy the structured settlement, and took that amount to Murdaugh's law firm. Russell did not get approval from Palmetto State Bank before he wrote the check, according to the indictment. The indictment goes on to explain that Russell Laffitte was conservator for someone named M.W., and he loaned money from M.W. to Alex Murdaugh. Lafitte paid that money back by taking money from yet another client. Lafitte was appointed the conservator for HPY and NT, and he signed disbursement sheets saying he was going to disperse money to them. But none of the money made it into the conservator account, according to the indictment. Some of the money went to Hannah Plyler's account that had been plundered, but most tellingly, some of the money went to pay back the earlier client, M.W., and $100,000 went to Russell Laffitte's father to pay off a personal loan. When NT was paid settlement funds, additional settlement funds of $25,245.06, Russell dispersed most of the funds as money orders or cash paid to unknown persons. Part of it he paid directly to Palmetto State Bank. Even though he was not managing any money for HPY at all, because the indictment says he had given it all away, Russell Laffitte still collected $60,000 for his work as conservator, and he took $15,000 for being conservator for NT. In addition to the fraud against Alex Murdaugh's clients, Lafitte is also charged with fraud against his own bank. Remember the farming loan that wasn't used for farming, but was used to pay back Hannah Plyler's account. And additionally, the bank made a loan to Alex Murdaugh for beach house renovations, but that money actually went to cover Alec's overdrawn checking account and to pay a local lawyer Alec apparently owed money to. And the $680,000 check to Murdaugh's former law firm, Lafitte is accused of making those loans or those payments without authorization and against good judgment. Now that you know the basic facts from the indictment, let's take a look at the actual charges against Russell Laffitte. In count 1, Russell Laffitte is accused of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and bank fraud, and he's accused of that for distributing checks out of funds belonging to HPY and NT as directed by Alex Murdaugh, and for distributing money to Hannah Plyler knowing it belonged to the estate of DB. In count 2, Russell Laffitte is accused of bank fraud for defrauding Palmetto State Bank by negotiating a check to Hannah Plyler knowing the funds actually belong to the estate of DB. In count 3, Russell Laffitte is accused of wire fraud for using interstate commerce to pay funds belonging to the estate of DB to Murdaugh's personal account, thus affecting a financial institution, Palmetto State Bank. In count 4, Russell Laffitte is accused of misapplication of bank funds for taking $680,000 from Palmetto State Bank and giving it to Murdaugh's law firm without telling the board of Palmetto State Bank and knowing he had fraudulently transferred the money to Alex Murdaugh. In count 5, Russell Laffitte's accused of misapplication of bank funds. That charge relates to the $750,000 loan for the beach house renovations with insufficient collateral and preferential lending terms, knowing that it was essentially unsecured and that loan proceeds would be used for other purposes. The indictment doesn't mention what came out during the testimony from the first witness, that Murdaugh himself didn't even own the house, his wife did, and she was dead at the time the loan was made, and her estate had not yet been set up. In count 6, Russell Laffitte is accused of misapplication of bank funds. This charge is for the $500,000 line of credit to Alex Murdaugh for farming, and then for using the line of credit to pay off loans to Murdaugh from Hannah Plyler's conservatorship account. The indictment also asks for forfeiture of anything Lafitte got personally from the fraud, which the indictment says is a minimum of $400,000. The indictment was true billed. That means the grand jury found sufficient evidence to support the allegations in the indictment, and it was and has been bound over for trial. That's what's happening right now. I'll be doing updates on the trial of Russell Laffitte. This is an absolutely fascinating case, and it really matters because you have people who are accused of violating great trust, great respect, and using it to harm some of the most vulnerable people imaginable, children and people who are mentally incompetent to make decisions for themselves. This trial is an important one and it's worth following. So be sure to tune in. I'll be bringing you updates about what's happening with the Murdaugh murders, with Russell Laffitte, and with all of the many cases that have stemmed out of the mayhem around Alex Murdaugh. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like for the video, and I will see you back in the next video.